Katie Viana, a TV presenter, is promised her big break if she can get an exclusive interview with Prince Jonathan of Visaria. She seeks him out, but everything after that seems unpredictable. Katie brings some much-needed holiday cheer to her viewers with information about the annual Christmas Carol Fest in East Rochester. It's time for Carol Jordan's segment, whose guest Jane seems a little too impressed by how pumpkins can be used for all holidays. Their time is soon up on the segment. Good day to you, and Carol signs off. Jared congratulates Carol for another perfect performance and thanks Jane for joining them. As Carol struggles with her wires and makes Marcy even more nervous as she tries to get out of it, Katie swoops in to help. Their sound guy, Eddie, usually handles the equipment, but he left for a better job, which Carol isn't surprised about. She asks Marcy to urgently get her a coffee and is in no mood to hear about the holiday specials. Jared gets some signatures from Carol before she leaves for vacation. Her old tapes are being pulled from the video library so they can be played for a full week while she's away for Christmas. Jared assures her she deserves the leave, but doesn't sound convincing at all. He doesn't like how she treats Marcy, which makes Katie comment on how she too can handle what Carol does if he gives her a chance. Jared needs Katie to do the public service announcements every hour, which is what she signed up for. He needs her to know the importance of finding her way up the ladder eventually. While handling passports, Ingrid is surprised to get one of His Royal Highness Prince Jonathan Wentworth. She keeps staring at him nervously, while he politely asks her to just stamp his passport. He's traveling from Visaria to New York for Christmas, which seems like a waste of time to him. His right-hand man, Louis, assures him it's an important event. Someone from his family needed to officiate. Jonathan's mother is forcing him to marry Rosalind, even if they don't know each other. Louis thinks when they get back, he can make things clear to her. He also briefs him about their plan of attending the event at the United States Naval Museum to honor his maternal grandfather for his services with the Allied forces during World War II. All this is mentioned in Jonathan's new book, and he clearly doesn't seem to have an idea about it. They have organized this dedication to honor his grandfather's brave actions during Christmas in 1943. Marcy thanks Katie for helping her with the microphone, especially since they know how difficult Carol can be. Katie knows everyone's only putting up with her because of the ratings. Marcy still feels like Katie can do the show better than Carol, but Jared isn't trusting her with something this important yet. Since he's the program director, she knows he can make anything happen if he wants to. Carol isn't happy about not getting her coffee on time, but proudly announces how the channel will run her episode reruns for the whole week. Jared finally wants Katie to do something important and informs her about a story they need to cover. Katie is happy to take whatever it is and learns about a new exhibit dedicated to World War II veterans. Since the Kingdom of Visaria is a sponsor, they're sending Prince Jonathan for the big Christmas preview party. He wants a positive puff piece on that, which Katie is more than willing to take up. Since he has denied interviews to all other stations, Jared is eager to get one. He promises to let Katie have her special show if she pulls it off. Katie takes Marcy to the airport while Larry handles work at the station. She wants Marcy to keep the camera rolling in case they find some exciting footage they can use later. She didn't want to bring along their regular camera guys since this is her big break and she only trusts Marcy with it. Katie knows there's just one flight from Visaria, so the prince has to be in it. Louis informs Jonathan about their luggage being in a special holding area. They can't lurk around too long in case someone knows who they are. Katie recognizes him instantly from his coat of arms and calls out to him. She introduces herself as a reporter from WYED-TV, Channel 13, and asks for a quick interview. She explains how she knew their flight was coming that day, since it's the only one from Visaria and she knew about their arrival because she is covering the new display at the museum. Louis insists they have a tight schedule, which Katie claims to understand. But when she gives Jonathan a look and insists it's very important to her, he tries to negotiate with him. They're supposed to collect their luggage soon before they leave for Hotel Clark, so Louis doesn't think there's any time for an interview. He understands Jonathan finds her pretty, but even he realizes it isn't a good time. Jonathan offers to meet her at a different time since they have a tight schedule. He promises to make the time for her and thinks dinner that night can work out for him. Louis believes they can contact her through her channel, and they leave. Marcy and Katie admit he's very good looking, but Katie knows they have to take charge of this situation and start working on Plan B. When Jonathan hears Carol on TV talking about her holiday reruns, her disingenuousness irritates him. But the channel's name rings a bell and he realizes it's the same one Katie mentioned. Back in her office, Katie starts some research on Hotel Clark, which she overheard Louis talking about, and knows the prince will stay in their largest suite. She finds the room number and makes a call, which Louis picks up. As he recognizes her, she insists this is a follow-up call for dinner that evening. While Louis claims the prince is busy, Jonathan takes over the phone and asks her to meet at Di Paolo's Italiano that night. Katie knows this is her only shot and needs to make it count. Her mom, Celeste, calls when she's getting ready for the dinner, but Katie clarifies she's only meeting someone for business. Celeste doesn't want to see her alone for Christmas and thinks there's more to life than her career, but Katie doesn't need a man to validate herself. Jonathan meets James, a representative of the museum's board of directors, who is grateful for the prince's presence at the grand opening of their new display. He suggests if Jonathan wants to do more, he can help older veterans who have nothing to look forward to on Christmas. Jonathan makes an excuse about being very busy with duties, which James understands. He's still very impressed with his grandfather's story, and excited about how the event preceding the ceremony has already generated a large cash fund for veteran services. When he leaves, Jonathan feels burdened with royal services and feels like he needs some excitement in his life. Katie reaches the restaurant right then, and as she greets Jonathan, Carol's date there recognizes her as the girl from her station. Katie appreciates how great the food is there, while the server comes over with more wine. As Katie and Jonathan toast to each other while completely ignoring Louis, he gets the idea and excuses himself. After warning him that she talks a lot, they both still try to focus on dessert. Katie wants an informal interview with him about the dedication ceremony and the details about his grandfather from the book. Jonathan claims he doesn't want to talk about himself, so she suggests she can take him across the city to get footage of him being himself in the US. He doesn't like the idea of a cameraman following him around, but she assures him it'll just be her recording with her phone. That seems like a better idea to him, and he agrees to let her show him around. Louis teases him about enjoying dessert, but Jonathan thinks he sounds like his mother. He had a wonderful time with Katie and informs him about his plans the next day, for which he wants some privacy from Louis. Jared discusses with Marcy about how they need to use Carol's old holiday tapes that week. It's the most important time of the year for them for the ratings, and he thinks if Carol wants to disappear for a vacation, he can work on something else. But Carol herself comes looking for him after she saw something at dinner. She wonders if there's any official event happening with a prince or a duke as a visiting celebrity that they might be missing. Jared claims to be unaware, so she gets frustrated about him not doing his job properly. She thinks they can have a great holiday primetime special with her interviewing a prince, for which she thinks she can get an Emmy. He reminds her she's on vacation, but she feels like she can take out the time for the prince. Marcy informs Katie about Carol being onto them. It's not clear how much she knows, but feels like someone has tipped her off about Katie's story. Katie asks her to just not say anything and pretend there's nothing till she finally gets her interview. When Jared asks for an update on Katie's interview, Marcy claims she's trying something. He wants her to tell Katie to keep it a secret if she manages to get the interview. Katie takes Jonathan to the largest World War II ship, the Arleigh, which was commissioned in 1943 and is the last of the Fletcher-class destroyers. She feels stupid for sharing that since he apparently already knows about it after discussing its details in the book. He tries to tell her something about the book, but Katie is still in awe of how beautiful his tribute was for his grandfather. Jonathan explains that he was the Duke, and he never got to meet him in person. She has also read that every male subject in Viseria is required to serve their country for 2 years. Jonathan confirms it's done willingly to instill national pride, and he served his 2 years too. She discusses another exciting chapter about his grandfather getting rescued on that ship, which makes him admit he was a great man. For her interview, she just needs some shots of him with the ship and asks him to pose in different ways. He wants to grab lunch, and she knows the perfect place. He's excited about his candy cane hot chocolate but seems nervous before trying the burger. She asks him to trust her and explains how it can be made better with some horseradish. He loves how good it tastes and shares that he's looking forward to their interview. It seems very different from the others he has done so far. He feels like he can talk to her honestly, and like they're old friends. Since he's royalty, this feeling is rare because he's not allowed to open up to many people. This excites Katie, since she wants something from the heart for her interview. When some craft items arrive at their table, Katie explains they're supposed to decorate their Christmas stockings with their names in glitter, which will be hung on the cafe's wall later. This seems fun to Jonathan, and as they start working, he wonders how long she has been a reporter. It hasn't been too long, but she wants to tell stories that make a difference and knows she is in the right field. Celeste calls her about her dad probably breaking his leg after falling from a ladder while trying to put up Christmas lights. Their doctor is on his way, since Katie's dad, Chuck, is being stubborn about going to the hospital. She's panicking about what to do and feels relieved when Katie offers to drive out there to see if he's okay. She decides to drop off Jonathan on the way, but he refuses to let her go alone to her parents' place in Oakmoor, which is a few hours away by drive. He feels like her parents must be proud of what she has achieved, but she doesn't think they're very happy with what she is doing. He relates to that as a prince with duties who didn't get to ride a bike when he was a child because he could get hurt. His life has never been private, which is why he loves spending time with her. He knows she's entertaining him for a story, but feels like she's very different from other women, who usually have some hidden agenda. While she appreciates his kindness, she feels bad for dragging him with her and promises to make it comfortable for him. They stop at a store to buy her dad's favorite cookies and a box of tea to help him sleep. Jonathan gets excited about the town and offers to show her around similar places in Viseria if she ever comes to visit. They meet Don, who helps them with what they need but seems very distracted. His Santa Claus car broke down, and he doesn't know what to do with all the kids waiting there. Jonathan instantly offers to help if they have a Santa costume. As a proper Santa, he asks the kids to approach him. Lee wants a doll for Christmas, so he assures her she'll get it if she's a good girl. Don is impressed by how natural he is, and even Katie admits he seems to be enjoying himself as Santa. When it's Tommy's turn, he asks for a bicycle and points to a special one in the store, while his mother gestures to Santa to not agree with it. Jonathan pretends to consider about the bicycle but wants Tommy to know people don't get everything in life. But Tommy still has full faith in Santa to pull it off. Katie feels bad for Mrs. Reed since her husband passed away last year and she knows she can't provide so much for Tommy. When they're leaving the store, Don stops them and hands over the bike to Tommy as a gift from Santa, and brings something special for this mother too. Katie is touched since she knows Jonathan did it, and he admits he wanted to feel like Santa. When they reach Katie's home, she warns him about Celeste talking his ear off and asks him to not mention the prince thing, so she doesn't freak out. She's afraid her parents want to marry her off, and Jonathan promised to cooperate as much as possible. Celeste is excited to see her, but isn't expecting Jonathan, so Katie explains she was with him when she got the call about her dad. Jonathan thinks Celeste is as beautiful as her daughter. Chuck is better now after the doctor's visit, but is still being stubborn and went upstairs to be in his room. While Jonathan excuses himself to talk to Louis, Celeste can't stop gushing about how handsome he is. She doesn't believe it's just business between them since she saw the way he looks at her and knows what it means. When Jonathan is back, Katie wants to meet Chuck. He teases her about getting summoned by her mother, but wants her to know she didn't have to come so far just to see him. But he's glad she did, and she even jokes about how he went to great lengths to avoid dancing on New Year's Eve. Jonathan feels like Celeste and Chuck must be very proud of Katie, since he has become very fond of her already in a short while. Celeste mentions she's single, but also that she's very headstrong, which a lot of men don't like. Jonathan assures her he finds Katie fascinating and has never met anyone like her. Jared asks Marcy to urgently deliver a message to Katie, since no one has heard from her for a while. He wants her to know that if the interview footage doesn't come to them by the end of the day, he will scrap the special. Their holiday programming season is already packed and he created a special space just for Katie's story. So, if she doesn't give the footage soon, he knows there won't be any time to edit it. Chuck thinks Katie can go back now that she has seen him and doesn't want her out after dark. She assures him she came with a friend who is working with her on a project. Jonathan knocks on the room with the tea and cookies her mother sent for Chuck. Katie introduces them and feels like if her mom is making tea, she should grab one too. Jonathan stays back with the cookies and notices a purple heart in the room. He knows this is only given to veterans who serve with great honor, so Chuck explains that he got shot 3 times and lived to tell it. He remembers the time during war when he managed to help his friends get out alive, but after the shock of getting wounded hit him, they had to carry him the rest of the way. He feels bad about a lot of veterans being alone at Christmas and feels the need to do something for them. Jonathan is impressed by how much he has sacrificed for the country, but Chuck isn't too boastful of it and jokes about spending so much time in war only to be taken out by Christmas lights. He wants Jonathan to make sure Katie gets home safely, and mentions that if he has any other interests, and her, he needs to know she won't stop at anything to get what she wants. He feels like if that scares her, he should stay away. Katie has set up for Jonathan's interview downstairs and asks him to come down, but he stops before leaving to ask for Chuck's advice. He agrees to give it in exchange for a favor. Katie records Jonathan talking about the museum display and his grandfather, and she mentions his book, A Noble Front. He confesses that his grandfather and other veterans deserve better, and reveals that he didn't write the book. A ghostwriter interviewed him and wrote it like he would, which Katie feels shouldn't be part of the interview. But it's still recording when she asks why he did this. He reveals that the book's proceeds are for his charity and he initially felt like he didn't have the time to write it. So, like many other royals, he agreed to pretend for a noble cause. But talking to her father made him change his mind since he feels dishonest, and apologizes for letting her down. She still thinks what he has done for others is a good thing and wants that to be the focus of the story. When she has everything she needs, she gets a text from Marcy, informing her about the urgency of sending the videos right away. They decide to head home since she has the footage and asks for some time so she can send it to Marcy for editing, while he says goodbye to her parents. Marcy finally hears back from Katie, who mentions her dad's minor accident, but reveals she got the interview. Marcy knows Jared will be very excited, and while on call with her, she uploads the footage and asks Marcy to trim the fat. Katie drops Jonathan off at his hotel and he thanks her for the wonderful day, especially the part about meeting her parents. He asks her inside for hot chocolate, but she hesitates and claims she has a lot of work. As he comes closer, the doorman comes to check on why he's standing outside in the cold. After assuring him, Jonathan feels nervous around Katie and wants to meet her again. He asks if she can help him with the speech for the ceremony. He wants to go back to the same cafe with the stockings. Louis notices how long he took to come back, and Jonathan shares how thought-provoking his day has been. He knows he can trust Katie and finds it odd that she doesn't throw herself at him. Louis hands him the itinerary for the museum dedication, after which they are scheduled to return to Visaria right before the royal ball. Jonathan doesn't think he wants to go back immediately and is reconsidering his priorities, but he still asks Louis to do something for him. When Katie reviews his speech, she thinks it's already great, but since she has made some minor changes, she promises to type and print it before his speech the next day. He notices how beautiful she is, but she doesn't believe she's anything compared to the women in Visaria and the royals. Jonathan disagrees and presents her with a beautiful bracelet. While he's helping her with it, she gets a call from Jared. As she moves away to take the call, Louis turns up there because Jonathan isn't answering his phone. Jared loves the footage she sent and is already editing it as they speak. She panics since she sent the raw footage and needs some very specific details to not be there. Jared thinks she can see it later, but he needs to get it done on a short notice, and they're already running a teaser for it that night. He feels like she has earned this special and decides to talk to her when she gets to office about her own show. Katie is very excited after the call and wants to share the news with Jonathan, but she overhears a conversation between him and Louis about his mother, the Queen, insisting to speak to him. Jonathan knows he wants to call her himself to set the record straight about his future bride. Louis thinks he should do that soon since his fiancée Rosalind is also trying to reach him. She doesn't understand his silence, but since Louis does, he asks Louis to make sure to give an excuse to her next time. Katie feels shocked after overhearing the exchange but pretends everything is fine, and shares how much her office loved the interview. But she also gives him more material for the stocking and mentions he forgot to make one for Rosalind. Jonathan wants to clarify, but Katie doesn't think he has done anything wrong. She blames herself for getting caught up in a dream and thinking something could happen between them, since she thought he cares about her. As she realizes how wrong she was, Jonathan keeps trying to explain, but she doesn't want to hear it. They notice a breaking news from her channel with the teaser of Jonathan's interview, which highlights the part about a mysterious confession he wants to make that he's not proud of. He gets projected like he's hiding a dark secret and feels like Katie betrayed his trust. She promises him that she had no hand in it, but he leaves since he feels very betrayed. Louis apologizes for bringing up Rosalind in public, leading to Katie overhearing their conversation. He always knew he was falling in love with her, and just when she confessed her feelings too, everything got messy. Louis doesn't think she could have edited the interview since she was there with him almost all the time. But Jonathan doesn't know if he can trust her now. Since they're from different worlds, Louis doesn't know how they could have made it work anyway. They still have work to do, and since Jonathan seems very confused, Louis offers to help in any way he can. As Jonathan thanks everyone at the museum for attending the event, Louis notices how upset he looks and discusses that they still need to do what they came there for, which is the dedication. Jonathan seems very conflicted since everything for him looks pointless now. Jared comes over with Carol to introduce himself as Katie's producer. He's very excited about Katie's piece on him and thinks she did a great job. He apologizes for how the promo turned out, and they confess that it was created without consulting Katie first. Jared claims it was his fault since he was too excited right then, but assures Jonathan that the final version will not have any of the details he doesn't want included. When he leaves, Carol tries to make Jonathan believe she mentored Katie to help her piece become better. She's still bitter about Katie getting her own show after hers. Katie hands him over the speech she typed for him since she didn't want to leave him hanging. As Marcy tries to get her to leave after that, she thanks him for the interview since it meant a lot to her. When he opens the package, he finds the bracelet he gave her along with the speech. Louis notes how she is the kind of woman he always wanted, but now it's sad to see her walk away. Jonathan doesn't think it's over, but decides to start with his speech. He addresses the crowd and the veterans, and with Louis's help, presents them with tokens of gratitude. He tries giving the rest of his speech from the paper but gets distracted when he notices Katie in the crowd. He ditches his speech and decides to say a few things from his heart. He looks at her when he discusses how America has taught him a lot about struggle and sacrifice. He feels like he has learned to become humble and seems to have also found courage and true love. Katie starts walking away at that point, so he wraps up his speech soon and goes after her. He asks her to not leave and apologizes for not being honest from the start. He knows this trip was supposed to be strictly about business and he didn't plan to meet someone like her. When she asks about Rosalind, he clarifies that he doesn't have a fiancé, and never did, since his mother only made up the rumor to keep people of the monarchy interested about a possible royal wedding. He knows he doesn't love Rosalind or even know her properly. He clarifies that he's madly in love with her and wants a fresh start with her with complete honesty. She admits she loves him too, and their union is met with a lot of cheers and support from the crowd, especially Louis and Marcy.